And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, there's certainly a whole genre of games out there now where you move things on the table and they attack each other. This all started probably with Wings of War, now Wings of Glory, then Sails of Glory. Fantasy Flight modified the system quite a bit with X-Wing, and then Wizkids came out with Star Trek Attack Wing, and now Wizkids has the newest entry into this, Dungeons & Dragons Attack Wing. Now, this is, as you know, is a big box that it comes with the hole. I don't know why companies do that. It drives me nuts. The hole in the front. There's plastic, of course, that will cover that hole, but it's a big box, and that's because this game comes with some really big miniatures. 3 dragons come in this box, and Wizkids is changing up the game quite a bit because this is coming. These 3 dragons come in here, and the dragons will move around and attacking each other. But they're going to have land units and giants and troops and archers and catapults and many things. And so this review here is of the Dungeons & Dragons Attack Wing system, but I want you to look at it as basically a part 1. I will do part 2 when I get to play with all the other stuff that's come out, with the ground things, because I like to see how that works. Here I'm just going to be taking a look at the basic game with the 3 dragons that attack each other in this game and see how that works, and then I'll do the other part, the other review with all the other stuff later on. Is this worth getting though? Let's take a look. Alright, first thing we want to do is look at the 3 dragons that come with the set. Now I think the red dragon here, and I'm not going to pronounce their names because I'll pronounce them wrong, but this is my favorite. I mean, I think, again, you'll see that the paint jobs on these, I mean, I'm sure that the expert painters out there amongst you are saying, well, that's not that great, but for me, these look really good. Then we have the blue dragon, this is a fire dragon, I believe this is lightning, and then we have the copper dragon. And all these dragons look really good. So you get 3 of them. So when you start this game, you can basically play a 3-player game if you want. Now each dragon comes with 2 dials for it. So what that means is the blue dragon is going to come with these 2 dials. One of them is for flight and one of them is for ground. And each dial has different movements on it. So the way the game is played is you're going to take these dragons and you're going to set up a playing area that you're going to play in. And each of these dragons is, let's say you're doing a 3-way battle, and so they're going to start in their area. And these stands are actually much more sturdy than I'm showing you here. I just was throwing these around. But they look really cool on these stands because they're flying. But in this game, these dragons actually have the opportunity to land. They can land and walk on the ground. And you'll do that, you'll show that basically by a marker. Now, this game, like all the Attack Wing games, comes with a bunch of templates for moving. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are straights. Then you have some curves, 4, 3, 2, and 1. These are a slight curve, a 45-degree angle. Then you have a 1, 2, and 3 of a 90-degree turn. And so each round of the game, players are going to pick on their dial, and they use the correct dial. So you'll start the game, for example, you'll start in flight. And so let's say I do this with the red dragon, and I turn it over. Everyone does that. Then we turn them face up. The dragon who has the highest initiative, and each dragon has a card that comes with them. Let's take a look at these cards briefly. Each dragon, for example, I could take the red dragon, I can take this regular red dragon, or I can take this named one here. There's some differences amongst them. This is these symbols over, this is how much points it costs to put them in your army. These symbols over here show you what kind of upgrades they can take. This is how many attack dice they'll roll. That's how much defense dice they'll roll. That's their hit points. And these are the number, that's how much armor they have. This also shows over here the range of their melee attacks. So this guy can bite in front of him, up to 2 away range, and he can hit with his tail behind him for 2 range. Down here it shows 3 3 different actions you can take on your turn, and then a special ability. So there's really a lot of information. This even shows that he's a fire type. And you can see here that this guy here is the acid type. So anyhow, the initiative, all that, and the initiative is really your level. So this level 10 would go before the level 8, which would go before this level 5, and so on. Okay, so the first person initiative, so I did this 3 slight curve like that. And so what I would do is I would take this curve and I would put it here in front of my dragon. There's like notches that it fits into. Then I hold the curve, pick the dragon up, and move and put it like that. So each person is going to move. After you move, you have 2 things. You can take an action that is shown on your card. Sometimes an action will show that you're putting like a token down on your piece. Sometimes an action is from one of the upgrade cards that you have. Then you can also say whether you're still flying, whether you're swooping, or whether you're going to be on the ground. Now the difference between swooping and flying is when you swoop, you can make melee attacks against ground units, which there aren't any in this game. But flying, well, I guess if another dragon landed on the ground. A flying creature cannot make melee attacks against a ground unit and vice versa. A swooping creature can make melee attacks against flying and ground, but also can have those same attacks made against them. Now after you move, and each of the dragons move, so there's different kinds of moves. There's a 180-degree angle move. So for example, the gold dragon, if he was making a 180-degree, would go here, except he would be turning around like this. Each dragon that makes a move, some of the moves on the dial, you'll see here's a ground dial. Some of the moves on the ground dial or on the air dial are red. When you do that, you have to take a stress token. You can't take any red maneuvers while you have a stress token, and you can't use any of your actions either. To get rid of a stress token, you would have to use a green maneuver. And usually they're very easy, light maneuvers to take. So for example, a spinning around, curving a 1 to the left would be a green maneuver, and that would get rid of a stress token. After all the dragons have moved, and the lowest level dragon moves first. I might have said that incorrectly earlier. The lowest level dragon moves first, then the highest level dragon moves last. And that's important because the highest level dragon can see where everyone else is going and see what action they're going to pick last. However, when attacking, the highest level goes first, then the lowest, the second highest, etc. When you attack, you look in your cone. So if this red dragon was going to attack this copper dragon, he would say, hey, he's in my cone here. He's within 2, so I can make a melee attack against that dragon. In this case, the red dragon has an attack of 5, so he would roll 5 attack dice. You'll notice these dice have different symbols on them, so let's just roll them. Here he rolled this eye. This is focus. If he had taken the focus action, there's an action called focus that some of the dragons have. The red dragon does not have that action actually. He could change this to a hit. Since he didn't, that counts as a miss. So does the blank side. He rolled 2 hits and 1 critical hit. The copper dragon now gets to roll its defense dice, which is 2 greens. So he rolls those. He rolls a focus. So let's pretend that he had taken the focus action. He would change that to a miss side. So he can avoid one of these regular hits. He still takes 2 hits. Now, fortunately, he has 1 armor. Each dragon will have armor tokens on their card to show how much armor they have. So his 1 armor blocks this normal hit. Armor is not destroyed. It doesn't go away, although there are ways that you can lose your armor, in which case you would turn it over like this to show that you no longer have it. This is a critical hit. This hit will always ignore armor, and so that will give the player one of these cards here. There's a deck of cards that you have, and each card counts as a damage. When you take enough damage, you're out. If the red dragon had managed to hit 4 normal hits, no critical hits, then 1 would have been taken away by the armor, and the other 3 would have done 3 hits to the copper dragon. Now, if you get hit by a critical hit, rather than take the card, well, you still take a card, but you flip it over face up and see what happens. And it could do all sorts of things. Subdue, double damage, deep wound. And some of these will cause different things. For example, crushed here You roll an attack die. If you roll another hit, you take another damage. If you roll a critical hit, you take another critical damage. And then you flip the card face down. So that can cause extra damage. Or here, from now on, all your 90-degree angle maneuvers are red maneuvers. Here, your agility goes down by 1. Here you get an exhaustion token. There's Shatter. This gets rid of one of your armor tokens. So these are never good to get. And they can cause short-term or long-term damage. So the game will continue. You'll take another turn and the dragons will fly and shoot until a dragon is defeated. That dragon is removed from the game, and the last person with dragons on the board is the winner, or armies. But in this starter set, you'll have a dragon each. Now, there are all sorts of cards that you can add to your dragon. These cost. Your dragon has to be able to take it on its card. So for example here, this Galaderos, he can take 3 dragon upgrades and 2 spells. So I look here, I might want to give him Magic Missile, or Shield, or Ray of Enfeeblement, or False Life, or Blur. Dragon card here, Close Quarters, or Bushwhack. So there's different kinds of things. I can even give many of the dragons, and you'll almost always want to do this, take some kind of breath attack. This is a ranged cone attack, which means it hits everybody in that dragon's cone. You'll notice that dragons, when they attack each other, have an area that they can shoot. So this guy can't shoot from the side, but he can shoot anywhere in this area. You can see a cone attack could hit multiple people and do devastation. You could also attack with your tail from the rear in different spots. When you use many of these attacks, many of the different attacks on them, so let's say Lightning Breath, which any of the dragons can equip, but it costs an extra 5 if you put on a non-lightning dragon. So if you put on any other dragon than the blue dragon, this costs an extra 5. Normally it would cost just your primary weapon value, which for the blue dragon is 4. So I could put this on the red dragon, but it would cost 10, which is kind of ridiculous. However, every time you use this particular one, this attack, this lightning breath, you have to put these tokens on it. These are basically time tokens. At the end of each turn, you take one off, and you can't use it again until they're all gone. You're kind of charging up. So many of the different spells will have that. Some of the spells are one-time use. There's a healing spell. Sometimes a spell like this haste here or different things will allow you to put a token. Maybe you cast Shield. You can put a token on your dragon and it fits right into the base like that, so you can see it as you're moving around to give you special abilities. Now there's more involved than that, but that's basic rundown. The game, you build an army based out of points, attack each other. The game also comes with adventures. There's 2 in the starter book where you can go through and you play a very specific scenario that has different objectives. And when you meet these objectives, you then have the opportunity to buy upgrades. The upgrades, you can only buy specific upgrades in an adventure until you basically unlock more of them. So you can play that way too. And that's how you play. Is this worth getting? Folks, wow. There's been some probably justified complaints against Wizkids about the paint jobs that were done on the Star Trek models for that game. That never bothered me. I thought they were pretty good. I can't paint at all, so I was never too upset about that, or the card quality or the component quality. This is top notch. These paint jobs are equal to the X-Wing ones from Fantasy Flight. These look really good. The whole component quality here, I mean, and these are great models. I think some people are going to buy this set just to get these models and put them on their shelves. But the set itself, is this just a reskinning of the Star Trek Attack Wing, X-Wing, so on and so forth? And the answer is a resounding no. Now, granted, if you know how to play one, it will take me just a few minutes to teach you how to play this one. There's not a lot of differences in it, but there are some big differences. One of them, this is the range ruler that you use, and it's in the 4 spots instead of just 1. But the range ruler can no longer be used to measure. You have to say who you're going to attack before you can use put the range ruler down. So you got to no more of this whole, okay, I could attack you, I could attack you. No, pick who you're going to attack, see if it works. If it misses, too bad. The attacks, there's cone attacks, there's line attacks, fireball, magic missiles, and that I think is the coolest feature of this game, other than the possible ground units versus flying units, which I cannot comment on yet. But the idea that when you shoot the flame attack, it takes a couple turns to charge up again. So you have to figure out when's the best chance to use it. Then fly around and maybe use your other things. I really like these spells here. The lightning breath here, you can make a separate attack against each creature in a range 4 line. So you shoot through and everyone in that line gets hit. Boom, 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 boom. Magic Missile, you can basically hit anybody that's within range 1 or 3. Shield basically gives you an extra 2 defense dice. Let's see, we got Close Quarters. You can attack the same creature 2 more times when you're close. Hide Carved Scales gives you an extra armor when you start. I mean, and granted, these upgrades are essentially the same as, buying more shields or putting certain people on your thing, but I don't know what it was. This game just flowed really well. And the changing height, I really liked how the dragons basically, when they're on the ground, they don't have to move at all. They can just turn 90 degrees or 180 degrees. They can move backwards on the ground. Up in the air, they have a different maneuvering ability. So sometimes you want to land just so that you don't, someone might fly over you. And if they're flying close behind you, you might want to land because then they cannot bite you when they're still in the air. So that's cool, and I think it's going to be even cooler when we see the ground units. But I am very excited about this, folks. I think this is really cool. I've always wanted to fly dragons around and attack each other. I've been wanting to do that ever since I was a kid, and this game finally allows that to be done. And it does it in such a good way. And the numbers, the graphic design of this is so easy to see. I like that the armor doesn't go away. It stays there. And so, some attacks will bounce off you. But man, does this give you the feeling of dragons swooping and moving around. Very much recommend this. I will say that I'm very thinking about getting another starter set that I can have 2 dragons of each type. You can only use one of the unique name ones, but you can have multiple red dragons and such, and I think that would be fun to have multiple dragons flying around, have 2 on 2 on 2 on 2. That'd be cool, but I'm also really excited to get the giant. I want to see a green dragon. I want to see some archers who can shoot up at dragons, and a dragon swoops down and attacks them. The possibilities for this are huge, and the wealth of the storyline behind it. But this is a good, solid start. Very exciting. Highly recommended by me. I don't know how much I'm going to play Star Trek anymore. This one, I don't know. I mean, I want a space one, and I think X-Wing would beat out Star Trek a little bit for me. But, man, I might play this one just as much because I love the fantasy feel for it. And there's a lot of cool things about it. D&D Attack Wing, big thumbs up.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.